When I was 12 years old, my mom vanished in the swamp behind our house. It's been 10 years, and I still don't understand what I saw that night. People in my town always said the swamp had a way of keeping what it wanted. I never believed them, until the night it took her. We lived in northern Michigan, near a vast marshland the locals whispered about, calling it the Flats. People said the swamp could swallow you whole, that it could twist paths and mimic voices. But my mom, a botanist, dismissed all that as small-town superstition. She spent hours out there, cataloging plants I couldn't even pronounce. That summer, it was just the two of us. It was one of those suffocatingly humid days in late July when the air feels like it's pressing down on you. She left that morning with her gear, promising she'd be back before dinner. Dinner came, then sunset. No sign of her. By 9 p.m., panic had a chokehold on me. I knew the swamp well enough. She'd taken me along on her trips plenty of times. I grabbed a flashlight, told myself she'd just lost track of time, and headed down the narrow trail into the marsh. But the swamp wasn't the same at night. About 10 minutes in, everything fell silent. No frogs, no buzzing insects, just an eerie, suffocating stillness. Then I heard it. "Sweetie, over here." It was her voice. But it wasn't right. It echoed too much, bouncing between the trees in a way that felt wrong. Like it wasn't coming from a throat, but from the swamp itself. I called out, but got no answer. Shining my flashlight through the dense cattails, I saw her, or something that looked like her. A figure stood about 30 feet away, motionless. The longer I looked, the more wrong she seemed. Her head lolled to the side, as if barely attached. Her arms hung loosely, unnaturally, like a marionette with its strings cut. "Mom," she didn't react. She didn't even blink. Then the voice came again. "Help me, sweetie." But this time, it came from beneath my feet. I froze. The mud shifted. Something a hand, cold and slick, pressed up against my boot from below. I stumbled back, heart hammering. When I turned to find the trail, it was gone. The swamp had rearranged itself. Where there had been a path, there were now endless walls of reeds and water. Then her voice returned, closer but hollow and broken, like a cassette tape unraveling. "You're so close now. Help me." That was it. I bolted. I don't remember how long I ran, but eventually, after what felt like hours, I burst out onto a gravel road. 2 days later, they found my mom, face down in a shallow pond less than a mile from our house. The coroner's report said she hadn't drowned. Her lungs were packed with mud, as if the swamp itself had filled them. For years, I convinced myself it was just grief playing tricks on my mind, that the things I saw, the voices I heard, they weren't real. But last summer proved me wrong. I was back in my hometown, visiting my aunt. One night, I walked to the edge of the flats. I didn't go in, I just stood at the entrance, remembering. When I got back to my car, my phone buzzed. A voice memo had started recording on its own. I hadn't touched it. I hit play. Static filled my ears. Then, buried under the hiss, was a voice. My mom's voice. "Sweetie, over here." Since that night, I've been getting random voice memos. They always come in the dead of night, always from her. But last week, something changed. The latest recording wasn't just her voice. It was my voice too, calling back, except I never recorded it. And it was coming from inside my house. If you've ever heard voices calling your name from places they shouldn't, you're not alone. Let me know in the comments if anything like this has ever happened to you. And if you enjoy true horror stories like this, make sure you're subscribed. There's always more to tell. Because some places never let you leave. They just wait for you to come back. It was supposed to be a simple road trip, just 4 friends heading from Chicago to a cabin in the Upper Peninsula. We left late, thinking we'd beat the morning traffic. But if you've ever driven through rural Wisconsin at 2 a.m., you know how empty a highway can feel. Like the darkness isn't just around you, but swallowing you whole. That's when the check engine light blinked on. We pulled into the first gas station we saw. It was an old, standalone place from the 62nd, sitting alone off a deserted highway. The neon sign buzzed overhead, flickering between GAS and GA. Next to it sat a tiny motel, 8 rooms in a row, not a single car in the lot. Inside the gas station, a man sat behind the counter, thumbing through a worn-out magazine. He didn't look up as we entered. Behind him, an old wall clock read 2:17 a.m. We grabbed snacks, asked about a mechanic. He pointed out back and said, "He'll be in at first light. Might as well get a room." That's when we noticed it. The clock? Still 2:17 a.m. Even after 15 minutes inside, it hadn't moved. We laughed it off, probably broken. But then our car's dashboard clock said 2:17 a.m. Our phones, 2:17 a.m. We exchanged uneasy glances, but we were exhausted. The man's advice suddenly seemed reasonable. The motel keys were actual keys, dangling from faded plastic tags. The rooms were musty, with peeling wallpaper and ancient tube TVs bolted to the dressers, but sleep was all we cared about. That's when the whispers began. Soft at first, repeating, looping, "Don't leave, stay." We thought it was paper-thin walls, until the air grew heavy, like the walls themselves were breathing. We bolted outside, but the highway we'd come from, gone, replaced by an ocean of black trees stretching in every direction. The neon sign still flickered. The man still flipped his magazine. Still 2:17 a.m. We jumped into the car and floored it. Opposite direction. The gas station appeared again. We turned around, faster. Again, the gas station. Every route, every turn, we ended up back in front of that damn neon sign. That's when the radio turned on by itself. Static. Then a voice, one of ours, screaming. But none of us had spoken. The voice on the radio begged us to stay. It was like hearing yourself from underwater, each word crumbling apart. That's when it hit us. We were never leaving. The moment we pulled in, that place had us. Time wasn't moving because we weren't moving. We were trapped in a loop that didn't need our understanding. It just needed us to stay. We're still trying to leave. But if you're hearing this story, if you ever find yourself on an empty highway at 2:17 a.m. and see an old gas station glowing in the dark, don't stop. Because once you do, you'll never leave. If you've ever been somewhere that felt like it didn't belong to this world, tell me in the comments. And if you love true horror stories, hit that subscribe button. Some roads are better left untraveled. I thought the creepiest part of spending my summers in the village was no Wi-Fi, until I found the old stone well behind Grandma's house, the one she told me never to go near, especially after sunset. Every summer, my parents sent me to stay with my grandmother in her quiet little village in upstate New York. They said it was good for me, time in nature, no screens, slow life. I hated it. The place smelled like old wood and wildflowers. The neighbors were ancient, and worst of all, no signal. But that summer was different. I was 15 and already angry at the world. Grandma's house was the same as always, creaky floors, thick quilts, and that smell of mint tea and mothballs. But there was one thing I hadn't noticed before. Behind the vegetable garden, past the overgrown lilac bushes, was a stone well. It didn't have a roof or a bucket, just a crumbling ring of rocks. sunken into the ground, almost hidden by wheat. I asked Grandma about it. She went quiet. That well's been dry for 100 years, she said. Stay away from it, especially at night. Of course, that only made me more curious. The first time I heard the voice, I thought it was the wind. It was a soft whisper, my name, drawn out like a sigh, Emil. I looked around, nothing, not even a bird, just stillness. Then I realized the sound had come from the direction of the well. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, I went back. The well looked the same, dry, dead, but there were marks, now tiny handprints, in the moss-covered stones, as if someone had been climbing out. That night, I stayed up, watching from my window. Around 2 a.m., I saw movement. Something small, pale, crawling out of the well. I froze. It looked like a child, but no child moves like that. Its limbs bent wrong. Its head jerked in sharp angles, like it didn't know how to be in a body. Then it looked straight at my window. I shut the curtain, heart pounding. Minutes passed. Silence. Then a soft tap, tap, tap at the glass. I screamed. Grandma rushed in. I told her everything. She didn't call me crazy. She sat down, pale as a sheet. I hoped you wouldn't see it, she whispered. That thing, it shows up every few summers. It picks someone, always a child. And if they answer when it calls, they're never seen again. We left the next morning. I didn't say goodbye to the village. I'm 27 now, haven't been back since. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear it soft. From outside my apartment window, no matter where I move, Emil. And I know, one day, I might answer. If you've ever seen something that shouldn't exist, especially something that follows you, tell me in the comment. And if you love creepy real-life horror stories, hit that subscribe button. Some things buried should stay that way.